All right, so enough talking about the old race. Let's talk about this new one. This is our last match for the night, and it should be a pretty good one. We've got two very good racers here. We've got Trojandude, whose name you've heard on stream a couple of times. He opened up our Ori tournament about a week ago or so, and we've got Hnaidrelle. Epicat, why don't you tell me about Trojandude?
Yeah, Trojan, for all intents and purposes, is sort of a veteran at this game. He's been running DE longer than I have, I would say, and he's been putting up consistent times race and race again. Not just with the tournament races, but even races we do outside for fun. He's always, top 2 or top 3, no matter what he does. So I've been very, very impressed with his times that he's put up. Right now, his personal best is sitting at 34 minutes and 56 seconds, which is a little bit ahead of Hnaidrelle's. But as we all know, this is Ori. Anything can happen. So why don't you tell us a little bit about his opponent this race?
Hnaidrelle is a very interesting runner, definitely newer than Trojan, and has an interesting approach. We've seen a couple of runners with a hybrid style, but typically a hybrid style of control that you'll see out of somebody like Terra is going to be where you start with controller for the early game and you switch to keyboard and mouse, typically when the player picks up Bash. Hnaidrelle is a hybrid player, but not of that style. Hnaidrelle mix and matches the two control schemes throughout the entire run. Most of the early game control is with the controller, and then some of the areas later on get keyboard and mouse, specifically Sorrow Bash, or Sorrow Pass, but primarily uses KBM for the trick execution, specifically like the save anywhere and fast stompless, things like that. So Hnaidrelle likes the precision of keyboard and mouse for trick execution, but then switches to controller throughout the run for just more general movement. Very interesting approach that I don't think anybody else that I know of has gone for.
Yeah, and I can't say that I really fault him for it. I started off running this on controller, and I can tell you that general movement does feel much better on it, but I very much agree with the whole precision of keyboard and mouse being a big factor for some of these harder tricks.
Yeah, a good example would be Fast Stompless, where you need to very precisely bash a fireball off screen and then get it to hit a set of rocks. The nice thing about having a mouse is when you're trying to aim your bash, you can get a very consistent setup where you just put your mouse cursor on a specific spot on a rock to try and get your aim. And as long as you were standing in the right place, it's always going to work. Whereas a controller player needs to more manually eyeball their trajectory because you just have to aim with the analog stick. Okay, so as far as our race we've got coming up here, it looks like our runners are pretty close to ready. How do you like both of these runners' chances going into this run? What do you think we're going to see?
From purely a time perspective, I think we're going to see Trojan putting up a very good, consistently high time. But as we know, as I said before, this is Ori. Anything can happen, and we could very easily see an upset if 1 or 2 bad deaths happens to Trojan. So I'm quite excited to see how this one turns out.
Absolutely true, especially considering the fact that we have multiple particular things in this game named after Trojan, none of which are good. They're almost all examples of things going badly. For example, the Trojan log is the most famous one right at the start, where you miss a jump onto a log and it costs you a few seconds. So if Trojan ends up repeating some of the memes that are named after him, we could definitely see some time loss coming out of his end. All right, I think we've got the race set up. They're getting the countdown going. All right, looks like we should be starting here. So something that you guys might be wondering if you are not familiar with this game and speedrunning is you'll notice these players hover over difficulties. You've got easy, normal, hard, and 1 life. Something that viewers might ask if they're not familiar with it, we're speedrunners, we're playing this game, why don't we get to play on hard? Think we'd be good enough to play on the hardest difficulty, right? Epicat, why don't you tell us why we don't run on that? We run on normal instead.
Part of me wants to take the easy out and say this game is hard enough as it is. But the more technical reason is that enemies on hard deal more damage and have more health. and a lot of our tricks, if we're running on easy, will kill the enemy that we want to manipulate, and if we're running on hard, we won't be able to kill them very quickly at all. So normal sort of has the best balance between.
Completely agreed. It kind of makes for the best speed run. The other thing about hard that really is not good for the speed run is it makes some of your level ups or your skills that you can level up later on more expensive on your level up abilities, and because of that, it really cuts down on the options for the run. Like, it would be harder to get to charge dash, for example, which is a very important skill for allowing our late game movement. And it's not that it would make the game too hard so much as it would just slow it down, but you wouldn't be gaining anything out of it of value, really.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, we see both players pretty much matching each other pace for pace. Trojan takes a slightly slower shot there. I guess maybe he got an errant sane shot or something. But it's really not going to make too much of a difference. He's only about one step behind. Both players are going to be making their way towards the initial ghost door, where they're going to do an initial death, intentional death to glitch open a door, and then make their way quickly onto wall jump. So Epic Cat, looking forward into this run, somebody like Hnaidrelle, he's going up against Trojan, who at this point is a pretty established runner. Do you think that sort of that name recognition factor plays into his mindset going into this run?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I know if I were to go up against somebody like Hetfield or Hydra or Sigma, that recognition that, oh no, this player is historically better than me, that sets in. But at the same time, Hnaidrelle's not too far behind Trojan. He's been putting up some very good times lately, and all he needs to do is play solidly, and if he plays the best that he can and perhaps gets a lucky break or two from Trojan, he could very definitely take this match.
Yeah, Hnaidrelle's PB is hovering just right above the 40 mark, and we've seen a bunch of runners in that particular time bracket this tournament have big breakout performances. To my mind, 40 minutes is a really big plateau and threshold for players, because you can get to sub 4, or you can get to right about the 40-minute mark pretty quickly if you just learn the route and play a little safe. You can afford a lot of safety strats and still get to a 40-minute time. But to try and cut your time below 40, that's where you need to start going for big boy strats. You need to maybe not make all the safety saves you could ever want. It's definitely when you've reached that next level. And a lot of our runners, because of this tournament being such a big deal and because they're practicing so much, we're seeing a ton of those people who have been kind of hovering in that maybe 41 to 45 range, suddenly having big breakout performances and getting multiple minute PBs at a time. Earlier today, you saw Mr. Randomson and Smashfully, both of which very recently got their sub 40s. Randomson PB'd by, I think, over a minute. Smashfully PB'd by about 3, both today. That's it's pretty incredible to see this remarkable progress that these players are making.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to point out that it's not just the people in that, hovering over 40 range. Almost everybody who is participating in this tournament, most of us have gotten PBs recently. Right after this tournament started, in one of his matches, Hydra got his PB for second place. We've seen you and I today earlier getting our PBs, and then a bunch of other people in the mid 30 range have been putting up big times and big time saves. So I think this tournament has really been pulling out the best in people.
I completely agree. This has been great for our community. It was pretty funny, the PBs you mentioned out of yourself and myself. Right, we were literally doing one last race before we prep for our tournament race today, and both of us PB'd in that race to go into it, pretty much setting the stage for a pretty epic showdown. And I think the memes definitely lived up to what everybody was hoping for out of that.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so both players making their way into Blackroot Burrows. Got to be my least favorite area in this game. I mean, people like to joke about Glades, but at least in Glades, you don't have to carry an orb around. In Blackroot, you've got to carry this big, heavy orb around. You jump even worse than normal. You're surrounded by spikes. Your options are very limited. If you mess up Glades at all, you're coming in here with very low health. I don't know. Describe your feelings about Blackroot to me, Epicat. What do you think of?
Blackroot to me is one of those areas that either goes incredibly well or incredibly poorly. I know most of my runs that don't reset in Glades reset in Blackroot just because it's so easy to lose, 5 or 10 seconds dying once stupidly to a shot that you could have easily dodged, or if you have a small mental break and forget that the platform has to be lowered down before you jump onto it. You can easily jump into a pile of spikes, and it's sort of a love-hate relationship. I love the design of Blackroot, but I hate playing through it so much.
Yeah, I completely agree. I hate Blackroot, and I love when I'm not in it anymore. Love and hate. All right, so both players are making pretty good work of it, though. I haven't seen any big mistakes out of them. Trojans, a little half step ahead that's just coming out of very small movement optimizations. But Hnaidrelle definitely keeping pace pretty much neck and neck. They're making the same cycles. It's to even call this a lead almost doesn't count because it's so close right now.
Yeah, I think the big breaking point is going to be coming in the next split or two. We'll see how Frankiwat goes, how the double jump split goes, and most importantly, how Gitso Tree goes. I think that's going to be the defining factor for who takes that first big lead in this game.
Yeah, Jinso Tree definitely an area that separates the men from the boys, so to speak. All right, both players hit their cycle manipulation correctly. They're now going to float around on these platforms a couple of times, make their way over to a lever that's going to activate their ability to get dash. Once you get dash, that's when it's time to finally start going fast. If you heard my commentary with Vuligen earlier for one of the races, I was talking about the run being divided into two large parts. There's before bash and there's after bash. There's a little bit of an asterisk on that because once you get dash, that is a really, really big expansion of your abilities. Not just because you can press it and go fast, but because it gives you access to dash gliding. If you ever see the players do sort of a hop into the air where it looks like Ori is still standing, she's not really in her normal jumping animation, that's a dash glide. And it lets you keep some of your dash momentum and kind of glide through the air faster than you would be able to just normally jump. And there's a lot of types of terrain, like anytime you need to go over a little cliff or something, these dash glides become very useful because you can just glide over to the top of them and instead of having to take your time to wall jump up them or stop your dashing to get up there. So right off the bat, immediately to the left of the tree, you're going to see both players use dash glide to get over, and that's how you'll know what to look for. So because of this and the ability to just dash in general, making you so quick, this is, I think, a really big... this is the next chapter in the run. We've moved out of the introduction. We're now into sort of the middle of or the early part of the mid game. Oh no, Hnaidrelle taking an unfortunate death. It's not the end of the world. Goes back to the dash tree, which is it's a decent bit back, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, he could very easily have made it through Frankiwat into the Death Gauntlet and taken an even harsher death there. So I think all things considered, that's not the most detrimental thing in the world. It's going to set him behind, but it could be much worse.
We're definitely seeing Trojan live up to his reputation for solid play, though. I haven't really seen any major missteps. It's just been, clean execution of the route the whole way through.
So right now they're coming into an area called the Death Gauntlet, aptly named so because if you die in here, you'll be sent back to dash, and you can't make any safety saves until you get to the part where Trojan's coming up to right now with that energy cell. It was a lot more perilous in the vanilla version of the game. Deaths here cost a lot more than they do in DE, and there was not that energy cell to save with, but both of them appear to be making very short work of this death run.
The other big difference in the Death Gauntlet for DE is you've got the dash ability, which is very useful because it quickly moves you past an area, and it has a very set specific distance it's going to move you. So it allows you to make your movement through this area very mechanical and reproducible. So you always know if I stand here and press a dash, I'm always going to jump over that enemy. Whereas in vanilla, when you have to control with your analog stick or something like that, it's a little bit more, a little bit more fluid. It's not quite as mathematical and rehearsed, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So coming up here on the right, Trojan is going to be picking up his next skill, that's double jump. And right before he picked that up, you noticed a small blip of some stuff on the screen. Oh, Hnaidrelle takes another hard death, but he'll be able to make up some time from that. As I was saying, Trojan, as he went up to the double jump, he dropped his save and leveled up Rekindle as he put that save down, and that allowed him to move off screen saves a little bit of time moving during the animation, and also Rekindle is going to be a huge skill for pretty much the rest of the run. Whenever you drop a save down, you can come back to that save and use it to save again at the cost of no energy. And so we're going to be
Trojan gets a
seeing
very
that.
clean grotto skip, by the way.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to be seeing that right here. He's going to drop down his save, rekindle it, and that's going to allow him to skip several cutscenes through the rest of this split.
This is a particularly important cutscene to skip because not only does it save us the time of watching it, but if the cutscene is allowed to play, when you're doing this corridor right here, there's a lot of boulders dropping down on you, which are very lethal because their pattern is not predefined. It's actually completely RNG. Fortunately, we can eliminate it from the run and don't have to deal with it. At least in this category, there's some glitchless categories that don't allow the cutscene skip where you'd be forced to deal with it. And I've seen people run that category and have a very bad time with those falling boulders.
I do not envy anybody who has to deal with the boulders.
Completely agreed. All right, Hnaidrelle starting to fix some of those mistakes, make it to double jump here. Hopefully makes it through here. All right, gets across. And now has acquired the double jump ability as well. Now Trojan is making his way towards the Jinso tree, which holds the bash ability. That's sort of the ability that's going to unlock the middle and late game. It's such an important part of our movement in this game. It's really the core of almost all the movement tech. We've got bash gliding, the charge dash to bash technique, which allows you to charge at an enemy quickly and then use a bash on it to refund your energy. Really, without bash, this run would just not be anything close to what it is.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I also want to throw in that double bashing, also a very entertaining skill to see used. Not used as much with controller, so we'll see if Hnaidrelle decides to go for some of them. I know he plays some parts on controller and some on keyboard, so I would assume that he would switch to keyboard whenever a section that can potentially make use of double bashes comes up. But I know we'll definitely be seeing some out of Trojan coming into the later game.
Absolutely. All right, Trojan is getting a pretty respectable sub-13 Jinso entry here, which means he's on pretty solid pace. I don't know what his Jinso entry and his PB is, but given the lack of mistakes so far, he can't be too particularly far off of it.
Yeah, and any sub-13 for Ginso is a very, very good time for Ginso. I think the only person who's made it to sub-12 is Hetfield, I believe. Don't quote me on that, though. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the Ginso tree, how it's laid out, and what we can be seeing from Trojan coming into this?
The cool thing about Jinso is that it completely turns the movement of the rest of the game on its head. So the game has a very horizontal layout to it where you're going through corridors from left to right usually. The one exception is maybe Valley of the Wind because it's a large open valley where you need to work your way up. But even that is kind of designed where you're supposed to go through some caves and corridors around to the side and work your way up. Jinso, on the other hand, is all about moving from the bottom to the top, and Ori's movement abilities are not great for that. Her jumps get her farther to the side than they do vertically. So each room is sort of a little puzzle. Like you can see this one, you're supposed to figure out how to redirect some of the fireballs. Some of the previous ones had some hanging blocks we had to jump around. So just because of the way the level is so vertical, we're sort of forced to deal with these puzzles and challenges the way the developers wanted us to. Whereas in the rest of the game, a lot of the time, they'll have a way that they wanted us to approach problems. And then because of our speed tech, we really don't have to and find ways to bypass it in some way that's faster. But Jinso is not that way. You just have to display some good platforming skills.
Yeah, I just got word that in Trojan's personal best, he got into Ginso at 12:59, so he is in fact ahead of pace right now. And if he keeps up this consistent, steady play, he can definitely be on PB pace for the rest of this run. So we'll be looking to see how close he can get with that. So right now, Hnaidrelle is making his way into the Ginso. It looked like he had a very clean traversal of the areas coming up to this. And on the right side, Trojan is doing key dupe. Or, sorry, not key dupe. He's going to be doing a ghost door with these keystones and grabbing bash.
All right, so with that, you're going to start seeing Trojans play speed up quite a bit. similar to the dash glide ability that I described earlier, where you can kind of maintain some of your dash speed. Bash gliding is a way to hold neutral inputs when you release your bash, and it's going to allow you to maintain most of your initial momentum from when you release a bash rather than decelerating like the game wants you to. And because of that, you can fly farther, fly faster, and make a lot of cycles we wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that for bash gliding, the amount of horizontal momentum you gain is based off of the angle that you bash at. So if you bash completely horizontally, you'll get the most movement, and if you bash vertically, you're going to get very little, perhaps even no horizontal movement from it. But we'll be using bash in tandem with an air dash ability later on, which, as the name would suggest, allows us to dash through the air. And with that, you can bash in pretty much any direction and then immediately follow it up with an air dash to gain all of that horizontal momentum you wouldn't have gotten from the bash.
Yeah, air dash mixes with bash so incredibly well. Like the two of them combined just multiply each other's movement abilities together in a really spectacular way that makes the movement in particularly the late game of this run so satisfying. All right, Trojan's now on the second mini boss. This is a funny mini boss because it's almost trivially easy, but almost every runner has some silly story about just completely flubbing this room and finding a way to die to it anyway, whether by missing a fireball bash and just falling into spikes, or if you're Sigma somehow in reverse event order having every ability in the game and 7 health and still dying to it, even though you can one-shot it with all those abilities. Don't ask me how. But it's one of those rites of passage that, you know, you're not a true Ori runner until you've managed to lose a run to dying to the second mini boss. Yeah, all right, Trojan gets a nice clean core skip, fortunately.
That was nice. I was going to say that, unfortunately, my experience with that room would be dying 3 times to it in quick succession. Mostly because I'm bad, but also because I have bad luck.
Blame the RNG. It's always RNG.
Of course, it's always RNG.
All right, we can see Hnaidrelle working through all the same rooms that Trojan was through earlier. We'll have to see if maybe a potential switch of controllers is coming into play. I know that Hnaidrelle said that he mostly uses KBM for tricks and stuff, but there might be some particularly precise bashes that he prefers to use the mouse for. So if you keep a close eye, you might be able to see the cursor move around, and if you do, that's an indicator that KBM is at use at the time. But it looks like for now, it's probably still controller.
Yeah, it looks to be so, and I've got to say I'm very impressed with Hnaidrelle's movement so far. He's been keeping pace, not letting that those few deaths before double jump grow into any much of a larger lead from Trojan. So I'm very, very impressed with his play so far.
Yeah, hasn't let a few mistakes translate into a lot. Maybe some mental fortitude resulting in more time lost in the future. It definitely stayed solid and continued on pace and hasn't let Trojan pick up a larger lead than already has.
So we're going to be seeing Trojan coming up on the right screen to the next ability or skill, Stomp. You want to tell us a little bit about how Stomp works and what it's used for?
Yeah, absolutely. If you do the correct route, it's used to go out the right side here and stomp, kill a rhino, and stomp on a post, as demonstrated in our race. But for some reason, all these other runners like to go out to the left, and you know, just because it's faster, they like to do it that way. Don't ask me why. In all seriousness, though, the point of Stomp is it allows you to reach terminal velocity in the downward direction instantly. It's actually unbelievably incredible how fast stomping downwards becomes faster than just letting yourself fall. Even though there's a little wind-up animation, the distance at which stomping breaks even to move downwards with just falling is about twice Ori's height, which, you know, you see that little wind-up, you'd think there's no way. But stomping downwards is really fast, so anytime there's downward movement to be done, Stomp is probably going to come into play. It's also used for this glitch right here, which Trojan is going to place a save in midair while stomping, and it's going to get confused and want to place him on the nearest ground, which is that stompable floor beneath him, and he can get back out of the swamp here. Nicely executed by him. We can see Hnaidrelle, on the other hand, is finishing up working through the Jinso escape here. Once he is done with the Jinso escape, he'll be in the swamp that we just saw Trojan in. So as long as he can keep his head together and finish out the Jinso escape and get a clean swamp, he can keep Trojan from opening up a lead, despite the very clean run we're seeing out of him.
Yeah, I also want to. Oh, before that, we're coming up to hopefully. Yes, you
How
got
did
it.
that cutscene
Kuro
skip work? I'm
cutscenes.
sorry to interrupt, but did you just see that?
Yeah, that was incredible.
As soon as I
That
saw the
that's a
bonk, I was like,
very
that's not gonna
very
work.
precise bash. Precise position, precise bash, and precise releasing of the bash. So that's very impressive that Trojan got that. It didn't look like it was going to work. But what I was going to say before is during that stomp glitch that we saw earlier, Drainless, Trojan leveled up an ability called Regroup, which gives you 1 health back every time you drop a save. And coming out of this area, he's going to be leveling up 2 more abilities. One of them is Charge Flame Efficiency, which halves the cost of this new skill that he got, Charge Flame. And the other one is that air dash that we were talking about.
Yeah, air dash is going to become incredibly relevant here, and it's going to speed up so much. Bash off of something with a bash glide, and then dash to give yourself full horizontal momentum, and then as soon as you land, immediately start dashing again. Maybe bash off something else. You're really going to start to see these players flying through the levels at this point once they get air dash.
Yep, and it's also worth noting that while air dash is faster than bash gliding or general movement through the air, it's still fastest to dash along the ground. So in a lot of places where you might think, oh, he can just bash off of something and air dash glide, it might actually be faster to drop down onto the ground and input a few dashes.
And that will remain true until we get midway through Valley to sort of unlock the last piece of the puzzle, which is charge dashing. I'm sorry. It's an upgrade to the dash ability where you can spend an energy to very rapidly move yourself to an enemy or targetable object. The nice thing about it, though, you'd think, okay, well, we have to spend an energy every time. That's pretty limited. Anything that prevents the charge dash from completely finishing. Oh, a little bit of a mistake by Trojan. He misses the bird. Looks like he's recovering pretty well. But anyway, to finish. Oh, no, he dies to the bird and goes all the way back. Oh, goodness. That's huge.
Yep, that is a very costly death. I know the pain of that from our race.
Oh, I've done that before myself.
Set him back about a minute and a half, perhaps. He has enough of a lead that that's not going to matter too much, but if Hnaidrelle keeps on performing well, another mistake or two like that can definitely cause some problems for Trojan.
Yeah, and it's not just the time loss. A lot of it has to do with mental status, too. I mean, if Trojan doesn't have the stream up or chat up or anything like that and is purely focused on the game, he has no idea where Hnaidrelle is, and that's a big death. If he thinks that maybe Hnaidrelle is right on his heels, he might think that he's behind now, and that can absolutely affect his play.
And Hnaidrelle just also got the Kuro cutscene skip, so we won't be seeing much of the wonderful, beautiful bird this run. But that was
maybe
that was
we
very
could
well
get
executed.
We might be able to get the fast stompless skip here, though. You never know. Okay, so Trojan is going for it. That bash looked maybe a little bit high.
I think he might be good here. Oh, no,
nope,
you're
too
right.
High. That's another bit of time loss. Fortunately, he missed it in the way where he got the cell fireball, which is fairly minor. That's on the order of 30-ish seconds. Whereas if he had hit the fireball but missed getting to the cell in time, he would have been teleported down into the valley and had to go way around and lost a lot more, like more on the order of close to 2 minutes.
Yep, and if Hnaidrelle is able to get, I don't know if he is going for fast stompless. I would assume so.
Yes, at the time of the tournament starting, Hnaidrelle did not go for it, but going back to what we talked about players stepping their game up because of this tournament, Hnaidrelle has since begun doing fast stompless, and so unless something changed in Hnaidrelle's mindset here and he just doesn't feel confident with it, we will be seeing fast stompless.
All right, so if he can manage to get that first try without any mistakes, he can definitely make up a bunch of time on Trojan with those mistakes that we just saw from him.
Mm-hmm.
So Trojan... sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Trojan, after he got those rocks, he leveled up 2 abilities. One of them is Ultra Soul Link, which doubles the amount of health that he gains from dropping a save, and the other one is Charge Dash that we were talking about. And so
another uncharacteristic mistake out of Trojan, though, just faceplant straight into spikes there. You got to wonder if maybe the nerves are getting to him. He might be panicking because he thinks he's behind after missing a couple of skips there or something like that.
Oh, and another one. Hopefully he gets his mind back in the game. I still feel that a miss or two on Sorobash is fairly common for even some of the best players in this tournament. Making it through much more cleanly that time, opting for the double bash method. Maybe he wasn't feeling the charge dashes. So now we're going to see him making his way up Soro Pass, using some rocket jumps and some laser skips, all very flashy movement.
Interesting option here out of Trojan. Instead of going for the 5th energy, instead opts to grab that crystal. The primary reason to take 5 energy is for the save that Trojan just made, which you normally can't make. And he instead decided to get the energy crystal. The time it takes to go down and get that crystal is not that far off of how much time it takes to go and get the cell. And the cell opens up some other safety saves later. So probably what's going through his mind there is he doesn't feel particularly confident in the movement to go get the cell, which is non-trivial. It is a little bit tough to do. So maybe rather than practice that, he wanted to just practice his normal run movement and just get this this crystal, which is much easier to get, because really the only thing he wanted it for was that save we just saw.
Yeah. And Trojan, we saw a beautiful execution on that frog juggle, and then the rocket jump up to the top. And while he was doing that, Hnaidrelle actually did, in fact, get fast stompless first try, so that'll be saving him some time. And if he has more clean movement, we can potentially see him coming back into this.
Yeah, and going into some of those differences, Hnaidrelle did choose to get the 5th energy cell, so you're going to be able to see the same safety save, but maybe Hnaidrelle can use 5th energy later on to make up some time with some extra charge dashes, get some extra safety out of some safety saves, and that might play a factor going into the end game.
So Trojan's going to be making his way over now to charge jump, which is our third to last ability that we're going to be seeing in this run. It's mostly used for vertical movement, although since we have these rocket jumps from the charge dash ability, it's not used as much as it was in, say, Vanilla, but it's still very useful for some areas with the vertical movement in them.
Vuajin in chat pointing out you can see the cursor on Hnaidrelle's screen now. I was told before the race Hnaidrelle specifically uses KBM for the entirety of Sorrow Pass. I am not exactly sure what the reasoning for that is, just more comfortable with the kind of movement here. One of the most difficult things I think about Sorrow Pass is the feathering and gliding is pretty difficult, because there's a lot of places where you have this upward wind current and you're trying to hold yourself level and get through some narrow spike corridors. And because of that, the optimal feathering is like very rapid tapping back and forth. And maybe on controller doesn't like having to, hit a large button that way. And instead on KBM can just bind it to a mouse button and get very quick little taps. That's if I had to guess, it'd probably be something like that Hnaidrelle prefers keyboard and mouse for in Sorrow.
Yeah, that makes sense. We saw a very, very clean Sorrow Pass from Hnaidrelle, so he's going to be saving some time on Trojan from that. But in the meantime, Trojan is fast approaching Climb. He's making his way through Misty Woods, making full use of these charge dashes and the bashes to regain the energy from them. So hopefully he won't make any slip-ups here. He's very far into it, so a death here would be fairly tragic, but I'm very confident that Trojan is capable in this last little area.
Yeah, Trojan doesn't have any particularly weak splits that I can think of. Generally, his beginning to end.
Saruz, why don't you tell us a little bit about Misty Woods, the movement in it, and what sort of separates it from the rest of the game?
Well, what separates it from the rest of the game, in my mind, is that this is the first time we've had every single at our disposal and really just get to flex our speedrunning muscles. At this point, the only thing left to get is Light Grenade, which is not an ability that's used in any way, shape, or form unless you're doing it for the memes in our race. But so really, there's just this is no holds barred Ori. This particular area is why we speedrun the game, because you just get to fly through here, bash to things, charge dash to things, fly around, refund your energy. It's just fun. That's really all I can say about it. It's my favorite split by far. And it definitely reflects in my times. Typically, my runs go where I mess up everywhere else and then have a good Misty because it's the only place I've practiced, and hope that carries my way to a PB.
Yeah, we just saw Trojan very, very close to death. He hit some spikes on the way down and then narrowly avoided a trolling wall shark. But he managed to make it through there, got a save down, so he's going to be making his way up to the Misty boss, hoping for a fast kill on this. And meanwhile, Hnaidrelle is making his way into Misty. Same way that Trojan did with all of these fancy charge dashes and rocket jumps. So hopefully he won't have too rough of a time, and we see Trojan actually getting that quick kill. That's very impressive. So
it was a 2-cycle actually. I'm not sure if it was I'm not sure if it was intended as a 2-cycle. Oh, unfortunate death for. Oh, right after a safety save though.
Yeah,
value safety save for Hnaidrelle. So I'm not sure if Trojan intended to spawn both of the bosses at once for the quick kill, or is intentionally going for just the very safe, consistent 2-cycle. But we saw just one of them come at a time, and he did the charge jump with charge flame to kill each one as they came out. It only loses you 1 cycle, and it's very, very safe. Oh, a little bit of movement flub from Trojan. Let's see if he can recover this. He doesn't quite make it onto that platform.
Yep,
has to use
dash.
Yep, has to use it to get back out here. Losing a little bit of time. Probably not going to make too much of a difference. He's closing in on the end here, while Hnaidrelle still needs to get through the rest of Misty. It's going to be pretty hard to make a comeback from here unless something catastrophic happens. But regardless, given the difference in PBs going into this, Hnaidrelle is having an incredibly good run and absolutely should be very proud of this.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think Hnaidrelle's putting out a good show for us today, a good showing for himself.
And I saw some people in chat, they were asking what Hnaidrelle's PB is, and I posted one right now as a 47, but when I talked on Discord earlier, current PB is actually a 41, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe has gotten a PB very recently and just hasn't had it posted to the boards yet.
Or perhaps he tried to post it and it hasn't been caught up yet. I know there have been a lot of PB submissions and not much time to get through them all.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like every 2 hours or so on Discord, somebody's posting a new PB they got. Right, so just got an update. NI's PB is a 40-42.
Yep.
So at 40-42, at this point, a clean run could get pretty close to that. We'll see how the rest of this run finishes out. So Trojan's getting the most useless ability in the world, Light Burst, right now. I don't anticipate seeing any meme strats using them out of Trojan. At this point, he wants to finish out his run nice and clean. Show us that very solid play that he's known for. Hopefully we can see a cool rocket jump here. Nope, he doesn't go for it. It's a little bit risky. You can eat that laser that he's passing by right now if you don't get your movement to that rocket jump nice and quite quick. So not the worst idea in the world in a race situation to just opt not to do it. It's pretty minor time save either way. Let's see how Hnaidrelle handles the mini boss here. Okay, spawning both at once. Unfortunately doesn't get the quick kill. Should be able to get this in... All right, 2 cycles. That was a nice nice pickup on the second one there.
So Trojan is now... Oh, ate a crusher, but he got a save as soon as he teleported, so that's not going to affect him too much. He's now making his way to Mount Horror, which is technically the final dungeon in the game. If you've played this game before casually, Horror might seem like this giant obstacle that we're going to have to make our way through, but in fact it's probably the simplest out of all of these dungeons that we've had to go through.
That depends on how good you are at one frame tricks.
We're going to teleport straight from the start right to the end, because this game is broken in several ways. And hopefully Trojan will get this door warp. Good luck on door warp. Hopefully he'll get it first time.
This is just a no-holds-barred one-frame trick. There's no way to make it easier. There are a few cues you can use to time it, but you still need to hit a one-framer. Hnaidrelle taking a save to refill energy. All right.
Oh, and Trojan got first try door warp. That's very impressive.
He's putting on a very good performance for himself. This is going to be a pretty good time here. He's looking to be around a 30-ish if he can close this out without any more deaths. Meanwhile, Hnaidrelle making his way over to Light Grenade, going to be stomping down here, hopefully trying to get a quick cycle here on flubs the movement just a little bit. I don't think that's going to make Yoka cycle, but fortunately recognizes it, chooses to not try and go for that laser, and is now going to be making his way up to the final area. Oh, with a nice rocket jump.
Yeah,
that's a cool strat. I think I saw Lucy do that first. It's Pretty cool. I might start to do that myself just because it looks so good.
I would, but I generally don't have enough energy to do that in my runs. So,
all right, is Trojan going for fish strats? Yes, he is. All right. We're going to see one last rocket jump out of him if he gets it right and nails it.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
And the
bashing off the Sigma rock and everything at the end. All right, all Trojan has to do is hold right here. He's going to get about a 3650-ish or so. I didn't see exactly what the timer was when he pulled through. I think it's going to be like a 3645, 3650, somewhere in that range. Yeah, very, very good run. Anybody other than just the very best of runners getting a 3650 in a race is fantastic news for them.
Yep, so Trojan is going to be holding right for the next minute or so, and we'll be able to watch Hnaidrelle finish out this very impressive run of his, opting to throw in a very swanky charge jump off the wall.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. If you're going to be missing that laser cycle and you're going to hold on to that wall there, might as well. It's probably, or at least get it started since you can recharge it up. All right, good job to recognize not going to be making it over that boulder and just kind of stalling on the wall there to not get crushed. All right, Hnaidrelle now making it through the fat lap. Interesting note, cool little strat for going through this area. If any of you, when you're on that pad, just dash left, do 2 dashes to the left, and then do a charge dash. The charge dash has a few invincibility frames on the start, and if you do it that way, your invincibility flames line up with those spike crushers perfectly. You will not take damage going through them. It's a pretty much completely safe method of getting out of there.
I never actually knew that. Thank you.
Very, very cool. You're welcome.
So Trojan finishing off with a 36:43, very, very respectable time from him. Hnaidrelle's going to be looking to finish off this run.
He's amazing, though.
Thankfully, he made a safety save halfway along, so not too costly of a death. But he should be able to make it through, hopefully learn from his mistakes and not eat another one of those.
Now, with a first try door warp and a really, really good ending, PB is not out of the question here. It generally takes from the getting into Horu to being done with the escape around a minute-ish, and then there's another minute 20 of holding right. So to cut a 40-42 is not completely out of the question here if my math is correct. It's going to take a first try door warp, and it's going to take a good escape, but we could still see it, I think. Unfortunately, no first try door warp. This is a really, really easy trick to get flustered by, especially as your failed attempts start to stack up. You start to maybe want to rush it, or you think I'm doing it too fast, so you start to go too slow. Really hard to keep your composure when this trick is going difficulty. Guts at third try, though. Oh, don't fall in the lava, though. Okay, recovers nicely.
Falling in the lava isn't so bad there. If you do end up dying after performing door warp, it spawns you at the bottom again. So
still not a death we want to be taking with a PB on the line, though.
Exactly.
Okay, I do believe PB is still alive here. Wait, did he accidentally stop his timer? We stuck on 38:41. Hopefully we can still get a time off of the bot or something if this does end up PBing. I'm suspecting Hnaidrelle probably has some key for... Oh, okay. I was scared that Hnaidrelle was going to try and cut it in front of that lava there, but wisely realizes not making that cycle, decides to just wait it out for the lava to go down, plays it safe. Definitely would have eaten that lava if he'd gone for it.
Now the question is, does he go with fish strats?
That is a good question. Given that he's recently started adding fast stompless and Kuro Cutscenes skip, yes, we are going to see it. Okay, an accidental pause. When you see that on the screen, 99% of the time what happened is the player accidentally moved their mouse off the screen for the bash and clicked away, minimizing the game. It's pretty easy to accidentally do.
And he gets the fish strats. Wow.
Very nice. I wish we could see the timer still and would know if this was a PB. Based on how the time was looking, I think it was probably it was close one way or the other. I could see it being under by a couple of seconds or over by a couple of seconds. We'll have to maybe go back and time it using the VOD to know for sure.
either way, this was a very impressive run from Hnaidrelle.
Completely
Definitely
agree.
putting up a fight for Trojan.
Yeah, if this wasn't
Especially
PB, it
those
was
early
very
splits.
close to it. Yeah, Trojan obviously taking the victory, but maybe by a slimmer margin than would have been anticipated going into this. Not that he didn't put on a great run, but so much just that Hnaidrelle put on a really, really great run. Voolagin in chat saying he'll let us know if it's a PB off of the SRL timer once it's done. Now, if you're a Hnaidrelle right here, depending on if he has his timer up or not, he might know that the timer paused. I know when I've done mine, I've hid sort of see what pace I'm on and have it distract me. I just want to do my run. So if it's hidden, he doesn't know that it's been paused. But if it's still visible, he knows, and he's got to be wondering, is this a PB or not right now?
I know I'm wondering, is this a PB or not right now?
I absolutely am. Did we have a counter of just how many PBs in races have happened this tournament? Because I am having trouble counting that high. This has been spectacular.
I don't know if math actually goes that high.
Just getting word that on SRL the dot done apparently didn't go off with the auto splitter, so we don't have an accurate time and don't know for sure. So it's gonna have to wait until we can go back and time it with a VOD to know definitively whether it was a PB one way or the other. So if it was, congratulations on PB. If not, congratulations anyway on being within a few seconds of PB in a big stage like this. Nearly 300 people watching. That's definitely a lot of pressure to be put under to do a technical run like this, especially when you're a newer runner like Hnaidrelle.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed by his performance here.
Completely agree. This is a name to watch going forward as far as potential killers in the future. Alrighty, so this is going to be our last Ori race for tonight, unfortunately. Let's see what we've got going forward. We have a bit of a break tomorrow. No Ori races scheduled, but coming back on Thursday, we have 4 races, actually. The first one is going to be Smashfully, who we saw earlier, coming off of a gigantic 3-minute PB. She's going to be playing against myself. That'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we've got Red Rum, sort of one of an old school vanilla runners who's been coming out of retirement recently, going to be going up against Icex, a newer runner who has been showing us some impressive stuff in races lately. That's going to be at 8 p.m. EST. At 9 p.m. EST on Thursday, we're going to have Meldon Tarragon, who was absolutely one of the big out of nowhere smash hit performances of this tournament. Put on one of the closest and best races I've seen, busting out some tech we did not expect, definitely blowing everybody's minds. Going to be playing against the People's Champion Lucidus, definitely one of the fan favorites that's emerged from this just due to the fact that she plays on controller, a very new runner, and is still putting up times that are competitive with the absolute top tier runners. And later on that night, Smashfully is racing again, going to get both of her remaining matches out of the way on the same day. She's going to be going against you, Epicat. So that's going to be the Meldon Lucidus match is going to be at 9 p.m. EST, and the Smashfully Epicat one will be at 11 p.m. EST. So Epicat, going into your match versus Smashfully, tell me what your thoughts are.
My first thought is I'm not doing any of the same strats we did today.
That's probably wise.
The second thought is that I really hope that Smashfully puts out a very good run. I know her times, well, actually today her times got a lot better with that huge PB 38 minutes. So if I make any mistakes, I will be hot under the knife with her coming at me.
Absolutely, you'll be on notice, no question about it. And then, after that, we've got quite a few more matches still remaining. We're only through, maybe half of the total tournament matches, if even that, and a lot of them haven't even been scheduled yet. So if you guys are enjoying these Ori races, keep checking back in on this channel. For the foreseeable future, on most days we have at least 2 or 3. Some days we have 4 or 5. It's kind of incredible, the amount of speedrunning we've been able to get out of this. It's just been an absolute blast for me. I've watched every race and haven't regretted a single moment.
Yeah, I know I wake up every day and look forward to seeing who's racing that day.
I completely agree.
Very, very entertaining.
All right, so since that's it for our Ori content for the day, I think we're going to go ahead and get going. I hope everybody who watched has absolutely been enjoying these runs as much as I have. We've had some memes today. We've had some good races. We've had PBs. Like everything you could possibly ask for in a speedrunning tournament has been delivered here. There's really just nothing more you can ask for.
Yep. So thank you everyone for watching. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening and come back starting on Wednesday and then more on Thursday for some more of these races.
Yeah, once again, the next race we have is Wednesday at, I'm sorry, not Wednesday. No, Wednesday, that is correct. You know what?
Yep.
I missed, I completely skipped over a match. Wednesday is actually our next match. It's not Smashly versus myself as I thought. It is Terra21 versus one of the runners we just saw, Hnaidrelle. Terra was in our very first match at the beginning of the tournament and put on a great performance against Trojandude. Unfortunately, did not come up with the win, but it was a very, very close race. Terra might be out for blood, looking to put a win up on the board. Going to be going against Hnaidrelle. They're two hybrid controller runners, which is going to be cool to see. And that'll be on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys are looking forward to it, that's the place to be. All right, cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. You guys all have a good night.